That gets the heart rate up a little.
Does it?
I don't know, a little bit. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, but it's already...
Yeah.
It's done. It's over.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you think about that for an intro?
That's a really good intro.
That's how it's done.
No, that's not the intro.
No, but that's how this is done.
Right.
Right?
Makes sense.
It's always like the way that we've evolved. It's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right?
For you here
Yeah.
or just in, yeah.
Everything.
Right.
The way that I've evolved, the show, doing this process.
Yeah.
Still learning so much as we go.
Right. Always tweaking things.
It's not like
it's like nutrition.
Yeah.
There's always something to learn with
Always.
nutrition.
Right?
Right. New science or not.
So here we are, Gut Gang Podcast episode. This is 11. I thought last week was 11, but this time it's 11.
Yep.
Interestingly enough, kind of cool. This is the last episode for this first season.
Mm-hmm. So one might say like save the best for last, right?
You've said it a few times now.
No, I had it said to me when I was a little girl and I'll never forget it. So I thought I'd throw it in here.
When and where was that said to you?
Oh my gosh. It was at church.
Okay.
Yeah. I was 8.
Right.
It's so weird how you have those memories, right?
Well, it's going to get even more vivid now that you're thinking about it.
Oh yeah. I can actually see it all happening right now. My parents made us sit in the front row at a Catholic church. Mm-hmm. And we always, if we got the second row, we'd be in trouble. So like we had to be there on time.
Okay.
And there's 5 kids, mom and dad. And one of the ceremonies that you get to do is in grade 2, you have your first communion.
Right.
I don't know how much you know about
I
the
don't.
Catholic Church.
I've
Okay, well,
been many times.
ask lots of questions because it's so funny because
Yep.
like I have a lot of feelings about church.
Yep.
But I remember, so like you have this, you do this thing with your class, you get your first communion. It's kind of a big deal. You finally get, like I was 4th. So all my siblings would get to go up and get the bread. And now it's my turn to go. Well,
You're like chomping at the bit.
I'm like, this is it. It's my turn, right? But my little brother, who was 4 at the time, had to go pee. So my parents were like, take him to the washroom and then come back down. And he was playing. I'm not allowed to go in the boys' washroom, right? So I'm standing outside and I'm like, Andrew, it's time to go. Like they're doing the bread now, right?
And how old were you at this time?
8.
Okay.
And he's 4. And he's like probably playing in there, splashing water, doing whatever. I'm not allowed going in. I finally managed to get him to come out.
Yep.
And you got to go all the way down. Everyone's sitting. It's quiet. Everyone, you're waiting for things to now happen. And I make my way all the way to the front and they're walking away and they go and they put the stuff away up. I can't even remember what it's called. But anyway, so they're putting it away. And the deacon, his name was Deacon Mike. Oddly enough, these Mikes have come into my life.
Right.
He comes over to me. He looks over his shoulder and he goes back, gets it, brings it down.
Oh, so you totally forgot or you missed it.
I missed it. And I was
Did
so
you know?
sad. Oh yeah. I was really sad.
Okay.
And he goes, come here, right? He knew I had just had my first communion.
Yeah.
Come here. And so I go up and this is in front of everyone.
Yep.
And he leans down and he puts it in my hand and he goes, we saved the best for last. And I was like, I've never felt so happy in my life. That one little sentence right there gave me hope. Such
a powerful moment, right? And he knew. And that's like, he knew.
It was, I don't think he did it because he was trying to do anything like, extra special.
Sure.
He just saw a need in a little girl.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And it spoke so clearly to me because
Right.
I was like, I am like that worthiness growing up. I'm sure we'll probably get into a little bit, but that was something that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
That was someone who I could trust in a moment of my kind of sadness.
And in moments like that, so I've got a lot of experience teaching kids with my hockey schools and all that. And those little moments will last a lifetime.
Yeah.
And so as an adult of authority in that moment, he knew, and it's not like he's trying to like big you up and give you like that false impression that you're the best. No, it was just the most sweetest, perfect thing to say.
It was an imprint.
Yeah.
It was an imprint in my life.
Yep.
Right? Like that's massive because there's a lot of bad ones there too. So you have to remember those ones.
Yeah.
For sure.
Which is a perfect segue into today's conversation. I always advise the guests and obviously the audience and the listenership. There's some prerequisites involved in order to be on the Gut Gang podcast.
Right.
and you know them, right?
I don't even know if I know them really.
You do.
So remind me.
There's 4.
Okay.
There's 4 prerequisites. The first one and the most dominant one is you've got to be a graduate.
Right.
If, that's the first one. But obviously I don't want to have this turning into a advertorial every single episode of how great my program is, because I don't want it that. But it's a good little,
it's like you want someone to understand really what you do.
Yeah. I know. And it's I'm proud to share some of my graduates. So that's the first prerequisite.
Okay.
But I can't have my graduates on every single episode. And so the other 3 prerequisites for guests.
I didn't know any of these, by the way.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you didn't graduate, there's 3 other prerequisites.
Okay.
1, you've got to be able to agree to do the cold plunge.
Oh, we're going to have to talk about this one.
We're doing
I've
it.
agreed. Well, I've agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
2nd, you got to do the sauna, which is a heck of a lot nicer. And then 3, you've got to be an awesome human being. Oh. There's got to be value.
Right.
Because there's
I got 3 out of the 4.
There's a lot of podcasts out right now, and I'm not bashing anyone, but there's a lot of just mundane conversations.
Right.
And they're just doing it for the sake of publicity, popularity, and just
polarizing.
Sure. Well, there's some polarizing conversations, certainly, but I want this to be intellectual, and I want the listenership and the viewership to take value and take some lessons from this.
Like some walk away feeling like, okay, I can actually implement that into my life.
Right. So here we are. You are a graduate of my program. One of my earlier
Originals.
students, right? Which is really, really cool.
I thought you were crazy when I first met you. When you told me I wasn't allowed to eat for someone, I was like, what is wrong with this guy?
Why did you? Okay. So let's talk about obviously, where you're from, and can you please give the audience a little background, and then talk about how you even found out about me. But let's move.
So how far back are we going?
Wherever you want to go.
I'm originally from Nova Scotia, a small town, one of 5. Mm-hmm. My dad is one of 13.
Wow.
My mom is one of 6. Yep. Small town, both from the same town. Moved here when I was 8 for work. My dad ended up coming here for work, opportunity. Cape Breton is home to me. I will always be my home. I always say it. Even my cousins now, they're like, you still call Cape Breton home? I'm like, it's home. It's the safest place that I have.
Got it.
Right? From there, grew up in Brampton. Don't usually repeat that too often, but Brampton was good back then. It's changed a lot now.
Mm-hmm.
Slowly made my way out to the Niagara region. Absolutely love raising my kids where they are. But I don't really know how far back we need to go here.
Well, Cape Breton.
Yep.
Moved here. Dad had opportunity. You were one of 4, you said?
5.
One of 5.
Yeah.
How was that?
I was 4th out of 5. Yeah. 3 girls within 4 years. That was an experience. I shared a room all the time, which is why I like when my kids sleep with me now, because I like that coziness.
Right.
But yeah, they just, didn't really know what was going to happen with my childhood was challenging to say the least.
Okay.
There was a lot to unpack. But to preface all of this, anything that happened back then, I've really worked through. So I don't have any bitterness or resentment or anger towards what life handed me in those moments.
Okay. Do you want to expand on any of that or no? It's totally up to you.
I think it's important because one of the things I like to teach at this point in my life is forgiveness. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that forgiveness is, the forgiveness is for ourselves.
Right.
Right? So that we can heal. But for that other person too, right? I was confused about forgiveness for a long time. Mm-hmm. Things were a little rough. I was rough. I was pretty tough growing up.
Were you?
I wouldn't have messed with me. I mean, I don't look like a very big woman or anything, but I was hated bullies so much. I just didn't like people that were bullies. Mm-hmm. And I stood up to them all the time. I didn't care what was going to happen.
Do you remember any moments?
Yes, there's so many.
Okay, well, share one. Let's hear one.
There was this one girl. Okay, there's so many.
Because no one likes a bully.
No, but I understand now where bullies come from. I think I understood where bullies came from back then too, their own insecurities.
Yes.
And their own lack.
Sure.
But I was you don't get to hurt other people because of your own pain. Because if I should have hurt a lot of people because I had a lot of pain.
Okay.
I had a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I never wanted to take that out on anyone else. So when other people were doing it, it just like, it would irk me so much. And I had police at my house when I was like 12.
Wow.
And because I stood up to people,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, well, she shouldn't have done that. And I was like,
Good.
Too bad.
So you got a little bit of a tough upbringing.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We definitely sat in a lot of counseling offices. Definitely in my childhood, part of Alateen, which is like, Al-Anon is like for the partner of somebody who's struggling with alcohol addiction. Alateen would be for like the children that are a part of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I never really connected to any of that, but there was always a seeking of something more.
Mm-hmm.
But I always knew that there was just like this innate goodness in people. A lot of people think that people are just naturally bad and hurtful. And I thought
think that's until you consider where they're coming from, or you really
see the
take a
good in
step
people.
back. Yeah. But no, it's an interesting point. Like a lot of, if someone's a jerk or a bully, they just automatically assume like that's just a bad person without taking
I see a hurting person.
Right.
Right. And I always saw that though. Like but I also stood up to them because I just was hurting myself. And, you know, I don't know. I teach that to my kids now. But back then, you know, I had to figure it out. There was a lot of trying to figure it out. I loved my bike when I was a little girl. I had a red BMX. To be honest with you, at this day and age and where we are today, if you would have met me, they probably would have been putting me through therapy, like hormonal therapy.
Oh, because like you were such like a tomboy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think about that often, and I'm like really glad that
Do you really think that?
The way I was.
Yeah, but did you have a smile on your face? Or were you confused?
I wasn't confused. I wanted to be a boy. I liked wrestling and red BMX bikes and learning tricks on bikes. And, you know, like, I'm still like, I'm not like I'm more of that rocker, like black clothes, like, you know, like little girls were doing all these other things. I was not.
Actually, you just posted a picture I saw on your Facebook today, and you're wearing like a rock and roll style t-shirt.
Yeah. That's my jam.
So you think
that's where I feel more comfortable.
Do you think honestly that would have been a conversational piece for your family?
I don't think my parents, my family, no, but I think
like teachers,
the counselors, 100%.
Really?
Yep.
So I don't see that, right? Like I'm completely disassociated to school and all of that stuff. So I don't know what's going on in school right now. I've got an idea,
right?
But I don't know that teachers can be that involved.
Well, I think it's certain teachers. I don't think it's all.
Right.
It's like you can't lump everybody into one spot.
Let's actually talk about that.
Okay.
Because you decided to take your kids out of school for 2 years?
3
years in homeschool.
Yep.
That's commendable as heck.
It was hard.
Let's talk about that, because I know you are a very powerful gal.
Okay.
And you're very strong and steadfast with your beliefs and so forth. How did that happen when you decided that you needed to just take your kids out of school and homeschool them?
Okay, first of all, I was not always steadfast in my beliefs.
Okay.
That's newer, which we can talk about later for sure. There was always something, though. When it comes to my kids, I didn't really know everything that was going on, but I was always trying to be involved. So I have 2 little girls, and being a little girl that was hurt before, you see the world from a different lens.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that I started seeing unfortunately had some crappy teachers that we had for my kids. And that would be like, hey, wait a second. When I was paying for them to go to this private school, they were learning a lot more. I was getting reports. I was like, I knew there was an involvement. And then when you send them off to public school, like the lack of communication and unfortunately the kind of like backtracking, especially if your child is quiet and shy and takes a little bit longer to process. Mm-hmm. So I believe that we all learn differently and we all need a way to get there, and sitting in a box doesn't work for everyone, right? That to me was like just a way that we were all taught that's how you do it, but I don't believe that's how we all learn. So I know my kids I'm obviously the advocate for them. My husband is like very aware of everything that's going on. He starts to see things from different angles. And I wanted to get involved, and I started to try to get involved more from like a health perspective, because I see kids not move, kids not eating well. And like all these lists come home. Okay, you know, make it easier for the parent. We'll get lunch brought in once a week. Great, but look at what you're bringing in.
Oh, so like the school is offering to
yeah,
bring
like
in?
hot dog day or whatever day, right? And you're just making it. They're making it easier for the parent. I understand why they're doing it, and you know those are fun foods, and kids can have that.
I
sometimes.
loved hot dog day.
Well, I just got the form for this month, and I'm like, Bailey, I'm like, I don't want to sign you up for this. But then you want to be able to let them have that. That's a tough one sometimes, but so the reason why we chose to remove the kids, we noticed they were starting to like unlearn some stuff. Like I was like, we're not being pushed at all. And we had a meeting with one of the teachers, and I'm like, you do realize like my daughter's in grade 3, not 2. It was a 2-3 split. But you're talking about her like she's in a grade 2 class. You're also giving me a report card that says a different name on it.
Oh
like,
my God.
How involved are you? How much do you actually care about these kids? Because what you're showing me is not what I have, like what I think we should have. And I don't know what it's like to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, now I can say I do.
Yep.
But not in a room full of 30 kids that aren't mine.
Yeah.
That's a hard job, but it's also a job that you chose to do. Mm-hmm. So do you want to do it okay, or do you want to do it well?
Right.
None of the ones we had an impact with or had an opportunity to work with were doing it very well.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
And then, 2020 hits. And at one point, so it was the beginning of the school year. This is when we decided to pull them. And I had to go and buy my kids a couple masks to bring to school. And everyone's got their opinions on whether or not they're effective. Mm-hmm. I knew at that point, this is not right. And I do not want to do this with my children. Also because I had a legitimate exemption due to some lung issues that I've had and trauma.
Right.
I don't care what people thought and felt, but it literally messed me up when I put one on. Mm-hmm. So, and I didn't want to do that to the kids because once again, we're going back to those imprints. Bailey was in grade 1 and Casey was going into grade 4.
Right.
And I'm like, nope, I don't. So I watched them walk up. First day of school, moms get a lot of emotion. Like we feel a lot for sure.
Sure.
And they're like walking up and you're like, either like, oh, I made it through the summer. Or you're like, my kids are growing up. Like it's an emotional time.
Okay.
When you send your kids. I cried so hard because I had to send my kids to school with a mask.
Right.
Within a week, we had them out. I was like, I can't do this. Then I started researching the chemicals they were spraying on the desks. So I was like with like the head offices and I was like, can you please send me the SDS reports? I want to know what it is that you're using for cleaning because then I get the email and they're like, oh, my kids didn't take a bus, but they were spraying these buses down twice a week or twice a day. And in order to get that film of that spray of that chemical they were using, you would have to wash it off. It doesn't ever leave. So I'm thinking, I'm like, hey, my daughter has lunch. She's sitting here in this little box. She's not allowed talking to her friend. If she takes a bite of her carrot, if she goes like this, takes a bite of her carrot and goes like this, then she could talk to her friend. That's what they were told. And I was like, I can't do it. And I'm thinking, okay, now the carrot rolls on her table that is filled with all this crap.
Yeah.
So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take a break and I got this.
Yeah.
They're mine. Let me just do this with them. And it was the best decision I've ever made.
So I wanted to have a little bit of story time with this because I think there's a lot of parents that maybe wish they did.
Or wish they could.
Right. Right. I'm sure there's going to be a heck of a lot of parents that are going to be listening to this that will find some commonalities and they'll probably chuckle with some of the challenges that you were faced with. But also like this is such a cool learning opportunity. We don't know what the future holds.
Right.
And we do know that the schooling system is certainly not where it could be. And that's an understatement.
It's a nice way to say it.
Right?
Like, I might have said it a different way.
Yeah. So that moment when you decided that you're going to take them out, what did that day look like?
I reached out to a friend of mine who I knew was homeschooling her kids, that I thought she was weird before. Like, not weird, but I was like, oh, they're not going to be social. We
all thought that.
But I'm like, you know what's not social? telling my kid that they're not allowed to turn over to the child sitting beside them and having a conversation with them.
Right.
That's not social.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to really, really mess some people up.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it was like, that's it. We got to do this. We'll figure it out. Right. I went to like the dollar store and just started buying little curriculum books. Okay. And I'm like, this isn't the way out, but I've got to figure something out. So then I sat with a couple different friends and I was like, hey, how do I make this work? And these women just went like this, come in, we got you. Right. They were like vets. And they just like brought these big bins of books and they're like, your daughter's going into this grade. This is what she's going to need. This is what da-da-da and da-da-da. And I was just like making these lists and ordering. And I was just like, we got to do this. It was challenging for sure. It would be, you know.
How challenging? I couldn't imagine.
Okay. Well, Mike and I were really struggling at that point too.
Right.
Like really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, this is when I was going through your gut program. And I had gotten my own place to live for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not only homeschooling them.
Right.
I was broken. Physically, my body was breaking down. I remember I came to you and I was like, I have literally been in the washroom for 20 days. And I've been in the hospital twice. Mm-hmm. And they keep just wanting to test me for COVID. And I'm like, I don't have it. I'm like, I have something wrong with my stomach. And I had to like know more about studies when I went into those rooms to be able to like stand up for myself.
Right.
So there was a lot happening at that time. And it was literally, I was just in survival mode. And I had just launched my business. It was crazy. It was a lot.
Yeah.
But once we started figuring out the stuff with the kids, that's when they were doing like the online learning a bit. So I had like books and then we had like them doing like online with the schools. And I was like, they're going to be in and out. We don't know how long this is going to be. That is not good for my kids. Like,
so did you do the homeschooling in cooperation like with that school
for
online?
like 2 weeks? Not even.
So then you just totally
Oh, it was terrible. Do you want to know what was the worst part? Is these teachers couldn't get it together. Like, honestly, I'm like, what would make this a little bit more simplified is every single person needs to be on screen between these times and these times. A lot of people didn't have screens to be on. Then I'm like, wait a second, I actually don't want my kids on screens that much. I don't allow that in my home, right?
Yeah.
And because their brain is still developing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so they had, because my daughter was in one grade and the other one was in the other, her time would be like this to this, and then there would be a break. So I have to entertain this one over here. And then now she's got to be on a screen and we're fighting. We were fighting all the time. I'm like, this is what I'm imprinting into my children's mind. Not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said, that's it. They're going to learn a hell of a lot more with me one-on-one than they will doing this.
Yep.
So that's really like the push that we took. And then the other women kind of inviting me into their group. And we did so much together. Like sending my kids back to school this year, that is the hardest part, was actually walking away from that community, which I am not even walked away from. They're like, if you need to come back, we're here.
Right.
Random messages like, hey, we're praying for you.
Yeah.
Just very encouraging, loving women
mm-hmm.
that want their kids to have more in life.
So how come you chose to put them back into regular schooling after the homeschooling?
Casey's in grade 7 now. So I was like, grade 7 and 8 are very formative years. And she's really shy. So I wanted her to have experience being in groups.
Yeah.
Just to help her develop her own person. The group we're part of is very big. And we're still part of some of the stuff that they do. But I couldn't actually make all of that work because of my business. And when you feel called to help people,
mm-hmm.
like extremely called to like get this message out and make sure people are taken care of and loved and you know, healing and happy and healthy.
Yep.
It was really challenging to do that. And then also being married to a shift worker. So Mike did a lot of the homeschooling. Like he really stood up. Like mm-hmm. he's like the math that he would teach those kids and I would look in those moments and I'm like, wow, like, but we basically had an opportunity to really either catch the kids up based off of the lack of parenting that they had.
Right.
Or not parenting, sorry, the schooling that they had.
Yep.
So we were able to catch them up and then some, so they could read and do math and stuff at a better level.
So let's give the audience and the listenership just some perspective. You were just starting your sort of online business or like relaunching?
Online, I started online at 2018, but I wasn't really doing well, which is when I joined. It was called OTA2 at the time. And then I learned how to actually do this efficiently.
Got it.
So, but so it was launching at the time.
Solo, like mompreneur, basically. Yes. And then your husband.
Working with couples was my niche.
Right.
While being in a broken personal time with my marriage, feeling like the biggest fraud. That was challenging. I'm here helping all these couples connect and cook together and get these results together. And I'm like, they're like, wait, that's a different background. And I'm like, yeah, everything's fine, you know? But then I just could be myself eventually when you have the right people in your life.
Yep. So you're relaunching the business. You're having challenges with your husband. You even decided to take time and relocate.
For 5 months.
Right. And homeschool.
Yep. Yeah. And do your gut reset.
Right.
And let me tell you, that was a challenge.
Sure. But I think.
But it helped.
You did it.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to get to. Is despite all of those major roadblocks and challenges, you still did it.
Yeah. And that almost brings tears to my eyes because there was so much pain. And you're like, but there's a thing called perseverance too, right?
What's the option? Sink or swim?
Right. Yeah. I wanted to give Casey and Bailey more and be a good role model for them and learn to be a better wife. Like that was a role that I wasn't actively working on because I was in a lack place. Right.
That's a good segue into the next spot. So before we go and take a quick break, you willingly, you chose that you're like, okay, well, I'm not like, there's room for improvement as mom and as wife. And so you made some steps. And
to be a better coach too.
Got it.
To be healthier. To not be a hypocrite. Because I saw so much hypocrisy over that time. And I was like, it was really eating away at me.
But then didn't that serve as your own therapy?
Yeah. It was like the best thing I think that's ever happened in my life. I'm so happy to be alive in this time.
So really quick then, before we take a break, what would be that lesson then, you know, for the listenership at that moment? Like, what did you realize, or what would be the lesson there?
You just said it, sink or swim. Like, it has to get done. And honestly, like, we'll get into my why.
Yeah.
But if you're a mom, like, it's up to you. Like, when you're a parent, it's your job to make sure that they have a better life. And you will sacrifice whatever it is to do it. However, we can definitely talk about what you should not sacrifice.
Got it.
As well.
Good. All right, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
And then into the next segue.
Brandon! Something happens inside us when we get inspired to change ourselves, change our nutrition, our fitness. But we really do need to visualize to see and feel how we want to be. And for that, we need a plan.
No, you need a plan.
I want you to
We need a plan.
We need a plan.
You said we
need a
so
plan.
I don't know.
Brandon Coates is the author of the 30-Day Challenge to a Healthier, Happier, Stronger You. Let Brandon into your lives for just 30 days. It'll be epic, I can promise you. Because for some of you, maybe it is time to bust out of what you are. It's the 30-Day Challenge to a Healthier, Happier, Stronger You. Available direct at BrandonCoates.ca. And go behind the scenes with Brendan for each and every episode of the Gut Gang Podcast. That's available everywhere you get your podcasts. Brandon! I think this podcast is going to be fun, pretty fun, and different than the other podcasts.
So you'd mentioned that you weren't always this way, right? I'll do air quotations.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Because you'd also mentioned you were talking about faith.
Right.
And you needed faith for where you currently were, but you weren't always this way. So are you talking about religion and faith?
Well, okay. Obviously, I told you I was, doing the Catholic ceremonies growing up.
Yeah.
So I was raised in a very Catholic home. My dad was as well. Like, there's a foundation there. It was, rooted in love, right? I started to see some different things and had some different feelings about what church was to me as a little girl. I think I always knew that I wasn't alone. There was something that pulled me to want to, do my first, what is that? When you're in grade 8, you do a confirmation, like
right.
To choose a name, like it meant a lot to me. But I said the word hypocrisy earlier. And that's what I thought I saw a lot in the church. I think a lot of it was because I was in a broken home, and it was like there was a lot of aggression towards like getting to church on time and making sure that you're in the front row.
Right.
And I was like, wait a second, we were fighting last night, and then we came here, and it's like people would just be like, oh, just go and like your sins are forgiven right there, but like nobody said sorry at any point, right? So I really struggled with that growing up. My teenage years were spent with heavy drinking. I got into drugs, a lot of things that like people would probably like now they're like, what? No way, right? And I know that's the past, but it is part of mine, and it's something that I had to learn from, where I would like sneak out of church to go have a cigarette with my friends in the parking lot. Like that's what we would do.
Yeah, but your other friends were doing it too, but
yeah, I was okay doing it.
Right.
For sure. There's freedom of choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though other people are doing it, it's still something I chose to do. But it was because I was like, you guys are a bunch of hypocrites. That's all I felt like growing up. So, that led me into, so I was 16. I remember saying to my dad, and you know my dad, like, you know how much I love my father. He's my best friend.
He's a big supporter of you.
He is my best friend.
Yeah.
Like there's not a day that goes by that I don't want to talk to him. Like he is my heart. Mm-hmm. But I remember looking at him and I'm like, if this is what you get from God, I want nothing to do with him. And I was 16 at the time. And then I didn't. And I seeked and I searched and I was like, wait, well, I remember in grade 11, we did world religions and we had to go to a temple, a Buddhist temple, a mosque.
Yeah.
And I was like fiery there. Cause like I said earlier, I was a firecracker. And like just the way like where women were, they weren't allowed on certain things. I would ask a lot of questions and my teacher's giving me this like elbow, like, watch what you're saying. Mm-hmm. But then after secretly comes up to me, she's like, I'm so proud of you, you know?
Yeah.
So that was a big struggle. But when Mike and I had a lot of relational issues, like especially the first part of my kids' lives, when Bailey was 8 months old, Casey was 4, that's when we started our faith journey. And we were at a concert. It was like literally a God moment. It was the most amazing experience of my life. We met this group of people and they told us that we could come to church and have a coffee. And I was like, what? You're allowed to have coffee in church? I wasn't allowed to chew gum. Anyways, it was a worship band. I didn't know what worship was. And we ended up going to their church the following week. And I wept and I wept. And I was like, what? This, like, people are just like, they had their hands up. I thought they were weird. And I was like, what is happening here? Like, this is so crazy, but I feel so loved. There felt like something different inside of me.
Right.
And 4 months later, Mike and I were baptized together.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really wild. Like Mike literally connected with these men because he's a bass player and they liked good music. And I was like, I need something in my life. We need to go there. These seem like really nice people. Mm-hmm. And then from there, oh my goodness, it was. When you start to connect to something that's just deeper than us here, just on the surface level, there's an attack, right? Like if you have a good message or you're hopeful or if you have a lot of love in your heart, I feel like a lot of people are struggling in life and they will attack that. Or it might not be like their way of thinking and they assume that you're going to be something else.
Sure.
And we went through that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there was a point when you detached from religion and then when the girls were quite young, then you decided to reinvestigate or, get back into it.
Well, during that time, I was actively seeking though. Like I did my yoga certification, I had the Om tattooed on my neck. It's actually changed now. I actually studied a lot of different religions. Mm-hmm. I find a lot of beauty in a lot of them. Yeah. Definitely went into like that spiritual side of life. Yeah. Knowing that I'm not alone. I never felt alone. And that's kind of like how that journey went. I met Mike and then, him and I would party a lot. We had a lot of fun. Then we got pregnant for Casey. We moved out here to Grimsby. We got married after we had Casey. And then, spent a lot of time fighting. Our nickname used to be like Spanish lovers because we're so fiery at each other, but it was because we're so in love. Right. Right. Like we fought and we didn't fight it wasn't like this like surface level. It was definitely pretty deep, but it was probably because we just loved each other so much and we didn't know how to communicate that. Yeah. And so Actually, I was in the middle of a really challenging time with him, and I was at the point where I'm like, this isn't going to work. And when we went to this concert, it was this random concert. It was so cool. Okay, so I wanted a night out. I was still a nursing mom, and I strictly nursed my kids. Like, they didn't take a bottle. Eventually, I got them to, but they didn't take soothers. That was challenging because you couldn't really leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, I need to do a date night or something. I need to like reignite this. I don't even know who I am as a woman.
Right.
And so I wanted to do this date with him. We were starting to connect really good. I almost bought the tickets for this concert. And then he had done something that really, really hurt me to a point where I was like, we need some space. And I didn't get the tickets.
Right.
So he actually, a week later, was like, listen, I want to take you on a date. I bought tickets to this concert. You'll never believe where we're going. I got babysitter. We'll deal with the nursing situation. She can eat food that time. Okay, great. I'm like, I know where we're going. He's like, no, you don't. I'm like, yeah, I do. I'm like, we're going to the Lettuce concert at the Trolf in Buffalo on November 11th. He's like, what? How did you know that? I'm like, last week I almost bought you those tickets, but I didn't want to because I was so mad at you. So we went because you're like, okay, now we got to go.
Right.
We get there. The band isn't even going on until 11. And I'm standing there and I'm like starting to hurt physically now. Like, I'm like, we need to go home. Right. But we didn't. We run into these 4 guys. They end up being from a worship band. And they're like, we end up hanging out with them. They're super cool. We like kind of danced with them, left. And then one of them was like, oh, I live in Grimsby. I'm like, oh, we live in Grimsby. One's like, oh, Burlington or Beamsville, all the surrounding cities. And I was like to the guy in Grimsby, I'm like, where do you live in Grimsby? And he's like, on Udall Way. I'm like, I live on Udall Way. Like my street.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool. So then we started going to that church and we really just started pouring into it. And we look at it not from like a religious perspective because religion is, people have opinions on religion.
I've got an opinion.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
So I was experimenting in different religions. I've studied Mormonism, Buddhism, Taoism, Judaism, and Christianity. And there was a time when I was going to church all by myself for probably around 7 months, every Sunday by myself. And I was enjoying it. I liked the lessons, right?
Which church? Like what kind of church?
I don't know. It was called Holy Cross. I don't even know.
Like the different types?
Yeah, don't even know. I just chose that I want to go to church. And then after the service.
Wait, how old were you?
Probably like 17, 16.
Okay.
After the service, I was getting ready to go home, leaving, and someone had a prayer book. And he was walking outside. I'm like, hey. I just kind of tapped. I'm like, you forgot to put the prayer book back. He's like, this is my fucking book. Do you think I'm a fucking thief or something like that? You can fuck off right now. And I was like, I'm never going to church because that you just portrayed yourself as a good human being. And 45 seconds later, you're swearing at me. I just thought you forgot to. I didn't even know that you could have your own prayer book.
Right. Like it's like that's it's Bible.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting that that's the reason why we stopped going, but we're also dealing with human beings that are flawed. We come into this world flawed.
Yeah.
Like there's, we're crying. We're like, the first thing we do is cry.
Sure.
And we have this expectation, and that's
hold on. Is it crying a flaw?
No, but it's
that's communication.
Right. It's a communication. But at the same time, like we come into this world like not knowing any better, and we're still human beings, right? And we go through our processes, and we don't know how these little imprints kind of get into our lives
right
moving forward. So, but we look at, and that's what I said when I was 16, I'm like, if that's what you get from God, I want nothing to do with him. Right. But in reality, because that's the hypocrisy that we see within people, because remember, we're dealing with people still. Religion has become a business, right? It's a transaction. There's a lot of things happening. It's like, be a part of this club, give me this much money. And there's certain things that in the Bible that teaches us. But like for me, I go back to the foundation of the root of it, right? The 2 biggest things, love me, like love God, and love your neighbor. It doesn't mean be a selfish human being on this earth, right? But at the same time, we're going to sin. I don't like the sin part is a challenging part for a lot of people.
Right.
Even hearing that word, they're like, oh, well, that's such a negative word. I'm like, okay, well then find another word for it then. Like,
Yeah. So then obviously we can talk about religion all day long. That's a
Yeah.
whole different ballgame. And I don't want to,
Right.
but I really admire that you are faith-based and you're starting to find your voice and you're becoming more prevalent and confident expressing that. And now you're
getting there.
Yeah, which is really cool,
Yeah.
right? Because it does come with stigmas and opinions and all that stuff, but
Right.
you're just plowing through it regardless. So you've applied that in your business, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you at now then in terms of business? And, what are you doing right now?
Okay. So just sidebar.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it's taken me this long to find my voice in this area is because of judgment that I've had from others. And that's something that I needed to just finally be like, you know what? That's you. That's a you thing. It's not a me thing. We had neighbors like literally make fun of us and think that we were going to not like them because of like their maybe sexual preference or because they were, getting drunk every night. I don't care about any of that. I have such a heart to just like help anyone in any time of need. But I was so judged in so many different ways that it was like, and then I became weird. I had it in my own family. Like I was told some pretty nasty things like because I'm a Christian, because I like Jesus, that I obviously don't like gay people.
Okay. So that was
by a family
pushed onto you.
By a family member.
Okay. All right.
That knows my heart. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, if this family member knows my heart, that actually shared a bedroom with me growing up, can say such a nasty thing to me.
Right.
What are all the people that I don't know in my life doing? Mm-hmm. And I'm still working on getting over that.
Right.
I was called a racist. I'm like, I remember as a child, I stood up for people. Mm-hmm. If you were like that kid being the bully, I would step right in and I didn't give a crap.
Right.
Because I don't like mean people.
Yeah.
Okay. And I will see the good in everyone. So having that said and done to me, like said about me, is the reason why I'm like, you know what, screw it. At this point, can't win them all.
So doesn't that put you in a little bit of a hard place all the time? Because you are a woman of faith.
Mm. Like I'm weird because I wear a cross.
No, but what I'm saying is
right?
people are judging, people have opinions all the time.
Mm.
And people are going to say, oh, like you must be this, you must be that.
Yeah. Well, we lump people in. It's like all police officers are police brutality.
Right.
Okay. That's a lie because I'm married to one and he's never done it.
Mm-hmm.
So straight up.
Yep.
Right. or all teachers are this. No, we just happen to not have a great experience with some teachers. Therefore, we became the teacher. And now the teachers we're with are better.
Yeah.
They're people on this earth. It's like, I'm sure you probably see some gut reset protocols and you're like, wait a second, that's not really how it works.
Sure.
Hopefully you're helping people, but some are better than others.
Right.
And I don't ever proclaim to be better than anyone. I just want to be able to be myself. And that's hard when there's people that, I'm sure it's like, don't read the comments. Joe Rogan always says, don't read the comment section. You're like, I mean, he's got probably a really big one. So
yeah, it's true. But at the same time, there's always that one.
Yeah.
Ooh, that gets you.
It got me, but it got me to a point now that I feel actually free and able to like find my voice and just allow that to come into my business. So where we are now is, so thanks to you and Dr. Nandor for helping Mike get to where he is with his health. Mm-hmm. Like there's a big reason as to why we are where we are in our family. And when he got diagnosed and you were like, let's do this, this, and this, and Dr. Nandor was like, let's do this, it changed our lives. And so we view health even at a deeper level. Mm-hmm. So Mike has now become a certified health coach and has joined the business. And we have started a program called Fit for Kingdom. Basically, it's not like we only want to work with Christian families, but we want to work with people that are open to praying at the beginning of like our Zoom call together.
Right.
I've built out a curriculum for them. So, what does God say about water? Why does God reference water so much? Well, we need to drink water. Mm-hmm. And then I relate it to health.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really cool how to like, what does God say about exercising? He wants us to be strong. We're not honoring ourselves and our bodies for him. Like we get really good at giving time and serving and tithing and, showing up on Sunday, but yet we forget about ourselves and we don't actually honor our body that he gave us.
Do you find that there is a influx or a growing demand of individuals or couples for that matter that are starting to experiment or sort of dabble into, Christianity a little bit more? Or what do you see?
I think over the last couple years, we definitely see people knowing that like there's more and there's better. And there's something, I think if you're really looking to like have some hope in your life, right? Like you're going to actively seek and find like that right calling, but also God will give us prompts. Like I sometimes will just get a prompt to like message someone. You've said it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, okay, I honor, right? I'll message you and you're like, how'd you know? And it's just like this gift,
Yeah.
Yep. But it's also obedience too. Like I've got to follow through on what he's instructing me to do, right? And I do see a lot of people, like for us, we want to work with families because we want to help the generational.
Hold on. Totally obstructing you, but you said obedience.
Okay.
So you're saying that God is giving you signs and direction,
Mm-hmm.
and you said that you need to be obedient.
Mm-hmm.
Why that word? When if God is giving you direction, why wouldn't it be like follow or acknowledge? Why obedient?
Why not?
Well, I understand there's definitely a higher power and there's a higher selves and God creation, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like to be obedient, it's just such a devaluing word, I find.
Okay.
And so why not acknowledge and be thankful for that guidance
Mm-hmm.
and follow through? Or where I'm perceiving obedient as being like, do that, or you're going to sin, or you're going straight to hell.
Okay. So it's definitely not like that. So there's this saying called the fear of the Lord.
Okay.
Okay. A lot of people are like, well, why would you want to fear the Lord?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's more like I would be fearful that the Lord's not in my life. Like this is everything that I want in my life.
Right.
Okay. So that's really what it means. Well, to me, at least, and I'm sure other people have opinions on that. When I say the word obedient is like, I have a calling in my life and I have a gift, and those gifts have been given to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't give us all the same gift, right? My gift is encouragement. And if I'm not encouraging people, he doesn't not like me. He's not mad at me. He loves me still because he says, I will always love you, right? But if you're not following through on your gift, then how can you expect more to life, right? There's a parable that's like, God gives you like there's like in the Bible it says like you're only going to like if you're given a certain amount and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing with it, you're not getting more.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep. So there's a man that comes in, he's given 5 talents. It's like a bag of money, let's say. And he's like, here, I've done this. I've given you 5. I've produced 5 more. You get 10 back. And the master is like, good job. This guy comes in, I've got 2. He's like, I've turned it into 4 now. Good job. You get this. Then this other guy's like, well, you only gave me 1. So I went and I buried it in the ditch. But so here you go. So I know you're like, you would get upset if I didn't come back with more. So here it is. Like I saved it. It's good. And he's like, no, you didn't do anything with what I gave you. And I believe that God wants to give us more, but I have to be doing a good job with what I have right now.
Got it.
So that's what I mean by obedience.
Okay.
Right? I have to follow through. You're right. It doesn't mean he's not going to love me, but I want to follow through on the instruction that he's given me.
Mm-hmm.
And the last week, the pastor that I was listening to speak said like, we always want this more in life, but sometimes we haven't actually done what we're supposed to with this last instruction. So
say that again. Say that again. Just say it again. Just repeat that because that's a powerful statement.
It's a massive. It really it stood out to me. So we want more out of life, right? I want more.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to go back to that last instruction because I actually didn't follow through. And the same goes with health. It all ties in together. Same goes with business, right?
So here's a question then. How can someone either decipher or pay attention to that lesson or that direction when there is, in my opinion, a significant and major disconnect from self from higher self.
Can you do it if you're not connected?
Can you fulfill your sort of your purpose if you're not connected?
Like, how do you know where you are if you don't have like a connection?
You don't.
Right.
So what I'm saying is there's a lot of people I feel that don't have a connection. So then how can they recognize that?
How
they
do you
have
teach somebody to connect with their health?
So me personally, I say detach from radio, media, all that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one major distraction.
We're walking zombies right now. Right. So it's the exact same thing. Like the same lesson that you would teach somebody on how to connect to themselves, to like know what food is good for their body.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same thing. Remove all of the shit. Remove all of the crap out of your life. If you don't want to drink, like
name the crap.
Well, like to become more spiritual or to become
just better connection.
Well, people.
Okay. You want to expand on that?
People that aren't serving you well. It's like, I would talk to people about weight loss and I'm like, well, what are the like your 5 closest friends? Like, where do they like to eat? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they love going to McDonald's. They like doing this and this and this. I'm like, for this next 6 months, we might need to just step back from those relationships, not because we're going to lose those relationships, but it's probably going to make your journey a little bit more challenging.
You want to hear a crazy story?
Mm-hmm.
Or not a story, but I took on a client probably well over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this was during the enrollment call and we were discussing things. And her fear was, she specifically said, she's like, I don't want to lose my fat friends.
Right. That's so deep.
Isn't that crazy?
But it's real. Well, I didn't want to lose my family. Right? I don't feel like I have, but some of the choices that I've made.
Oh, if you decided to embrace religion or your faith,
yeah,
more,
and I don't even
lose your faith.
Yeah, even the word religion kind of irks me a bit sometimes. Faith. Yeah, like just my own journey, right? Like honestly, the way I look at it is like Jesus came onto this earth and he taught us some really good lessons, right? I believe he's the Son of God. Mm-hmm. You don't have to. He's in, like, he's around and he's in all the different religions, and some people think this and that, whatever. But what I get from my faith and how structured and not even structured, just how good I feel in my own heart. I never feel like I'm alone anymore. Mm-hmm. Right? And I spent a lot of time feeling like that.
Sure.
And that is like, if you connect that back to health, right? They say like loneliness is the same, what is it, as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. There was a new study that just came out and they connected loneliness as to like how damaging it is for your health. That is like basically is like smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Where's the study? I guarantee. Wait, hold on.
Yeah, there's
gonna be some fact checkers be like trolls. Where's that study? Show the study.
Okay, well then let's find it. But that's like
I believe it.
It was a newer one that had just come out.
Okay, before we get into the next part, I want you to go back and share with the listenership, how can you detach? Because you said like I know the steps. How we can get someone to get a better connection with their mind and body in terms of nutrition. Right. How can one get a better connection with either their spiritual self or God? Go for it.
Well, I think that people need to like let go of what other people have said first and do your own journey and like really think about what do you really want in life. And sometimes it's this massive prompt. It was a prompt for Mike and I, and it was like, you got to come to this building. And then we walked into that building and that was the right fit for us. It's no longer the right fit for us. We don't attend that same place. We've found other callings and we have to continue to go through there. But I think we first of all need to remove people, unfortunately, that are not serving us well.
Explain serving, because I think that could be easily confused.
That aren't allowing us to grow. That there's people that are sabotaging other individuals. Mm-hmm. There's people that are judging others. So you have to just recognize that this is your own journey. This journey is not for anyone else.
Fuck yeah. Say that again. Ooh, I love that.
Like it's your own journey.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to know that that's right. Mike and I literally like we were holding hands together the day that we decided to get baptized. Our marriage is blessed. Mm-hmm. And we know that. Mm-hmm. We know that. And we have to keep going back to our firm foundation, right? Your firm foundation is remove all of the crap, reset your gut, and let's start building up the walls. Right now, in your relationships, in your families, and it is like your own calling, you need to solidify that and be curious. Actually go to a bunch of churches, but you know what? Don't go once. Go for a month, right? But know that you're going to deal with people that are flawed human beings. You know, my cousin used to say to me when I was little, I remember we were sitting in church together, and he's like my fun older cousin. Shout out if he listens to this, he probably won't. But he said to me once,
hold on, what's his name?
You know, Sal Piccolo.
Well, he's going to listen. He's going to listen.
Okay, so we were in Cape Breton and we were at church, and he swore. And I was like, Sally, I was like 10, right? 10-year-old little girl. And I'm like, you just swore in church. And he's like, oh, we're here. We got forgiven right away.
Oh my God.
And I died. I'm like, but you know what?
You said that to a kid. It's like, it's funny.
I'll never forget it. Because sometimes when I swear, I'm like, I'm so sorry, Lord, right away. Because, you know, I want to speak nicer words.
Right.
Like he wants me to be kinder and love more. Mm-hmm. So in order to get started on your own journey, you have to really be ready for the process. And sometimes you have to just put yourself out there. Just take that leap of faith. Like just take that next step.
And it's okay to do it alone.
Right. It really is okay to do it alone. I mean, for our family, we needed to do it together because it saved our marriage, and he continually does it.
I like how you called it your firm foundation.
Yeah. Well, that's biblical. It's like God is giving us the firm foundation. He is the firm foundation. It's very biblical.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I'm working with all my clients, and you know that I've said it, I'm like, we are building a new foundation.
Yeah. I say to students all the time, I'm like, listen, right now, this is the foundation part. Yeah. Without the foundation, you cannot have good structure. Otherwise, there's a part in the Bible where it's like building a house on the water without a firm foundation.
Right.
Where's that going?
Yeah.
In a storm.
And that's applicable for every single pillar of life.
This is the best part about my faith is I am able to pull this into all different areas of my life. Mm-hmm. That's like a saving grace for me too. Because I feel like in business, as I speak to it might sound Christian-y, but I don't care. Because it's like, you want to read a good book? Read the Bible. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing book. Right. If you look at it that way, right?
Yeah.
There's
stories and lessons.
Stories and war and like all of that stuff. Like, you know, I bought my friend's son one that was done written by the Marvel comics.
Oh, cool.
So it's like a comic book, but all of the stories, it's so cool.
I'd like to see that.
It's a really cool one.
Well, I would like to see it.
Yeah.
But I need to go pee right now.
Yeah, okay. So let's take a break.
Take a quick break.
Okay.
And let's go back. That was a good pee. Thank you.
Took a while.
I think like I've taken breaks in the past.
Yeah.
But that was my first like gotta go pee break.
Oh. Okay. Oh, I wanted to show you. I brought this out for you. I found it in my purse. So do you know what I have in here?
No.
Okay. I have it's electrolytes. Do you know anything about electrolytes? Of
course.
Yeah.
Just actually kidding. No. You know what?
Have you heard of an electrolyte? I should have
played dumb. No.
No.
What? Can you tell me?
But you know how like a lot of them don't actually have the right amount of stuff, right? Like when you're a very clean get out of here. When you're a very clean eater, mm-hmm. A lot of us are lacking sodium. And you probably put Himalayan salt into your water before.
No.
Have you ever done a Soleil? No, get out of here. Okay, this.
Please educate the audience what a Soleil is.
No, it's just salt water. I don't like it, but this I like. Okay.
Yeah, but you might not like it, but it's very healthy.
Okay, well, you educate them on it because I tried it once and I was like, I'm out.
So a Soleil is cool.
Okay.
Really quick. So if you get some authentic Himalayan salt rocks, put them in a mason jar and let it. It's gonna become concentrated to however much it can be, and then the rocks will just stay sort of solid.
Right.
And then every day you get a spoon, a wooden spoon, has to be a wooden spoon, because the metal will disassemble the charge of the ions.
Okay, that I didn't know.
Yeah. So use a wooden spoon and not even a plastic fork, because the plastic can have static electricity to it. And you just one spoonful every day, and that is a powerhouse spoonful of some negative ions in the water, full of minerals. Delicious.
I don't know about delicious. I don't.
It's just a spoonful.
Okay, this is delicious. Look how much sodium's in it.
1,000 milligrams. I've seen these online. And
okay, you have to try it. Like the amount of energy that I get from that, like especially like people that are clean eaters, like we don't get enough sodium, right? And then there's a good amount of like potassium and magnesium, which is what kind of ties it all together. But energy, like I won't say who, somebody in my life that was breastfeeding mom, it helped her to produce more milk.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that the vast majority of the population
it's Rob Wolf's company.
Are, well, just they're deficient in minerals.
Right.
Most minerals.
But this is an easy way to get it, and then it's in your pocket. I actually had it in my purse. I was drinking this. I'm like, oh, I'll let you try one.
So
different flavors.
I don't have a relationship with this company. Do you?
Yeah, I'll give you a link.
No, but like, so okay, and it's
I have salty status, is what they call it.
Salty status. Cool. Great way to get some electrolytes. So you've got a link?
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just put that link here. You're welcome.
Okay, thanks.
Cool.
You're going to want one of your own. No, that's for you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I needed to go pee, and here we are now. So what's going on now? Where are we going with this conversation? What are you doing with your business? What do you want out of people?
Well,
because that's a big one.
I want them to love themselves, but that's a journey on its own. So where we are right now, so as a family, we have built out our business together. It's called Baker Family Fitness. And Casey and Bailey, if you see my logo, it's actually a picture of us jumping, and then we've turned it into our little logo. Okay. It's like actually us. So it's not just like a, Right. And really what we're feeling called to do is to help couples and families just become stronger and healthier. And it's not like a fat loss program because, it's like more of a strength gaining process. Let's actually focus on building muscle and getting strong because that is the foundation of everything. Right. It's one thing that I think we don't talk enough about. It's always like this fat loss phase that everyone's in. And I'm like, what if we just focus on getting strong? Because the end result is you're going to lose fat, right? Yeah, but most people don't make that connection. They don't even... No, it's because we don't talk about it enough. Right. That's our fault as an industry. Totally. Right? Yeah. So if you listen to, I don't know if you listen to Dr. Gabrielle Lyons, but she says like we're not over fat, we're under muscled. Yeah. I love that because she talks about like the skeletal muscle. Oh man, I was just listening to a podcast with her and she did a TED Talk that was ranked number 2. It was an 8-minute TED Talk that just got labeled as misinformation. And she sent in 52 articles for an 8-minute segment. Oh my God. To prove that what she had to say, she's a powerhouse. She's medically trained. Yeah. Like she worked with people that were dying every day. And she's like, we are not over fat. We are under muscled. And I love her concept. She has a new book that just came out too. I can't wait to get it. But like, it's so, it's interesting to kind of like, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole there too far, but if you look at her Instagram, there's so much negativity and positive, yeah, she actually talks about that, how like she had done this talk. It was all doctors and 50% were like, yeah. And she's like, it's our messaging. It's our fault. We're not communicating it well. Like we as health professionals are not communicating it well because we're afraid to, because you're going to get canceled if you don't say it the right way. Yeah. But where we're going is we're building out this program. It's for families. We really want to connect couples, marriages. Like we see the fruits of our labor. We see how we've been able to pull through some really challenging times together. The stuff with Mike's health, like being able to really transform his health thanks to your help, has been like an absolute blessing in our lives. Like Casey's always saying that she wants to do certain jobs. I want to be able to pay my kids well for, like she wants to do editing and maybe we can get a little side gig going over here. Yeah. And then Bailey's an encourager. So she's like, I want to be a coach with you, Mom. And I'm like, you could be whatever you want to be. Yep. But as you're growing up, you can learn how to help other people. Right. I think I was having a conversation with one of my clients the other day just about a lot of women in their phase of life where they're seeing their children leave home to go to university or college. Oh, the empty nest kind of. Empty nest. Yeah. But she's not there yet, but give her 4 or 5 years, she will be. I think about that stage. But perfect. Okay, good. I don't want to think about that stage. Yeah. Most families don't. Right. And
there's a saying, like, if you're a master of your schedule, you're a
Mm-hmm.
master of your life.
Right.
And just like how Dr. John says, if you fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you, your day won't fill up with low priority distractions that don't.
That's good.
And so when you're in the thick of it, as a mom, as a wife, there's really not a lot of time to forecast and really sort of project what you want the family to do and what the direction can be and what your options are. So I like that you're working with families and instilling family values and the firm foundation.
Right.
But at the same time,
generational health.
Yeah, generational health, because you're in the thick of it. You don't even think about it.
Right. I literally talked to a client this week, and I was like, she had mentioned that her one of her kids was starting to like not want certain foods, and then because she made these changes, right? And I'm like, okay, this one's to the moms who do the grocery shopping. They don't go and get groceries on their own. So it's like we are trying so hard, like we don't know better, so we need to learn as a parents, right? But our kids aren't going to get the groceries. It's in the house because you've allowed it to be there. Maybe I'm calling you out. Maybe you needed to hear that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Call them out.
At the same time, like, it's up to us to make that change, and we need to be educated on how to do that. So part of the process is let's get both husband and wife on board, because in reality, they're going to succeed a lot more. How many people have I worked with in my life that their husbands are sabotaging them and the wives are, and they're struggling? It's this constant battle, right?
Why is that?
Because they're not ready to do their own work.
Either or, right? And we see that. That's why I said, who are the closest 5 people you're going to hang out with, right? Remember, like, that is going to make a big impact on like how you view life. Like if all 5 of them are druggies, probably going to be one too. So let's say one of your followers or a female, whatever, she's drawn to you and she's reaching out and she wants your support or she wants to hire you, and husband doesn't want to be on board.
They don't have to be on board because they get to take that leadership in the home and start to make the changes. I've had a lot of husbands that have been on board, that have made the changes, or they encourage each other. Basically, like, when you were doing your dream, like, client, I have a couple that I've been with for a long time. They're my age. They support each other. They're the only people I see in person right now, because it's just, we've been doing it for 5 years, and I would miss my Saturday morning if they weren't there. They support each other. They get through it together. They've been able to go through some challenging times and encourage each other, and they show up, and there's like, that's there for them. And that's why I chose to want to work with. Plus my own marriage was struggling and we weren't connecting, right? Mike had a health scare, and I was like, finally he'll start doing some of the healthy things that I've asked in this home.
Right.
So I understand what it's like to be that person that's trying to bring that information into a home. But if you I do most of the grocery shopping. I enjoy doing most of the grocery shopping. Mike actually went for me today, and I'm like, I really didn't want to give you that job, but I was going to be here today. Right. So maybe that's a control thing on,
the whole fridge is just going to end up with just red meat and steak. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is basically. No, but like, when we have our sometimes food. So I say to the kids, I'm like, when you're at home, this is your home. You don't need to ask me for permission to go into the fridge and get food.
Yeah.
Right. But we need to have a balance of like when we're having certain things. So this is your sometimes corner. Sometimes I will say yes. This, go anytime. Yeah. That's your always time. Like, we have to kind of have that separation.
There was, I don't know who it was I saw. I think it was probably a podcast interview. And the guest said that, family life, and he's just filled there's no rules in terms of what the kids can eat. They can eat anytime they want, but it's all healthy stuff. And he's like, if you want to fill up on that, by all means, fill your boots, but at least there's nothing in the cupboards, pantry, freezer, anything like that, it's going to make them fat or too much sugar or anything like that. Right.
Well, like we still do have some options in the house, but it's like, there's a very 85-15. Right. Sometimes 80-20. But to be honest with you, like, I'm grateful that I don't have a lot in the home, because I also struggle with binge eating. And it's something I'm really working on right now, because I don't know why I do it. I haven't gotten to that root yet. But last night, like before I came here, like yesterday, I was just really exhausted and I was like a little bit irritable. I had a very big coaching day. So there was a lot of energy that went out. And honestly, I just wanted to like lay on the couch and just eat. And I'm so glad that I only had 4 cookies in the cupboard because I had them all.
Right.
I had all 4, but if there was more, I would have 100% went to town.
Yeah.
And then felt like crap today.
So talk about that then really quick, because you're human.
Oh, yeah. Like I'm definitely like, I'm not an all or nothing at all. It's like, let's implement what we can sustain, right? But let's take it on the right like path. Like, first of all, we got to debunk a lot of crap out there. Unfortunately, our industry has been like, it's so polarizing, and there's a lot of people saying this and a lot of people saying that, and go over here, and women have to just like sweat their ass off all the time in order to get a result. I'm like, let's reel it in. Okay. Strength training with no rest in between is not strength training. You are doing cardio with weights,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
So, I don't even remember where I was going with that one.
Well, I was just saying like, there's a human element,
right?
And you had a moment where you just wanted to have the whole thing. Luckily, you didn't.
Yeah, but I was an undereater for a long time, right? I underate. I chronic diet. I didn't even know I was chronically dieting. I just thought that like, in order to stay smaller, I had to eat chicken and salad.
Right.
Even as a teen, my friends would be going to like Wendy's and getting burgers and fries, and I would get the chicken sandwich, take it off with the side salad with no dressing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I was as a teenager. And my friends would have like a big Minute Maid or
Did
whatever.
Did you have an eating disorder, or was it just
it was never like, I mean, I could self-diagnose that I definitely had disordered eating for sure. But I just also never felt good eating other like certain foods. In our home growing up, like I'm so grateful. My mom, it's like she didn't know what she was doing, but she did know. Like she would get like 1 bag of chips a week, maybe 2. We did have Pepsi in the house, but we weren't really allowed to have it. Like
right.
It was like, or ginger ale.
Yeah.
But there's 7 of us that would share that 1 bag.
Right.
It was not like, and then she would make homemade cookies and stuff like that for us. So that was, I tell her all the time, like, you are the reason why I have gotten into the career that I have, because you gave me a good start, right? Even though you didn't know what you were doing.
If we were to go into like hypothetical land, or sort of maybe some new clients that you've just taken on and some of the common struggles that they are faced with that you're assisting with, what are some of the common challenges that families are faced with when it comes to food selection and initiating exercise?
Okay, for food, we are a culture of over-processed food. You know, I like to think like some of these like big styles of eating, call it vegetarian, vegan, carnivore, keto, whatever, right? All these camps that we can set ourselves up into.
Yeah.
There's one common thing that they agree on. Remove processed food, right? So let's start there. Let's start just changing the palate. It takes a little while for the tongue to start to like, you know, this versus that. So it's a matter of just kind of doing that. Obviously, we really focus on hitting protein targets because most people undereat protein, which is why they're under muscled.
Yeah.
And then, you know, for movement, it's time. A lot of people don't have time, but honestly, I think that's just an excuse at this point. You make time for what's important for you, right? And I know personally that if I don't start my morning with my own time, where I've set boundaries with my own children, like they know, like I don't feel like I'm selfish for doing that. And I actually feel the total opposite. So, you know, I really, when I work with people, it's like our why has to be more important than your why not. Because why not just say screw it? Why not just this and that?
Right.
Right. So we have to get back to that. We have to remind ourselves, like in this moment, this is why I'm here.
And that ultimately goes back to that connection that you were talking about, that we were talking about, establishing the firm foundation and also detaching from so much bullshit.
Right. But okay, what's your why?
Why do I do this?
Like, why do you care to be healthy?
Because I want to live to 100. I want to live for a long time. I want to.
People are living to 100.
Yeah.
No problem.
They're healthy.
Or not.
The ones that are 100. Okay. I want to be ripe 100.
Yeah.
And I want to have longevity.
Right.
And I want to be able to continue to learn and acquire. My biggest why is I want to learn. I just want to acquire as much information as I can, because if I don't and I sort of leave things on the table on my deathbed, I'm like, fuck, I could have learned something else. And then ultimately I want to be able to pass that on.
So that's what you're supposed to do with the second half of your life.
Yeah.
Is to take everything that we learned in that first half and apply it and teach it later.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
There's a book called From Strength to Strength by Arthur C. Brooks. He's an expert on happiness.
Okay.
You got to read it.
From strength to strength.
Strength to strength.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
I haven't even heard of it.
Yeah. So we'll put it right here. And
by the time this is uploaded,
you'll have read
I
it.
will have read it for sure.
Yeah. It's really good. He talks about that second part of life and how like we are meant to use the wisdom that we have to mentor, to serve more, to give more. Right.
Yeah.
And he's an expert on happiness. He actually teaches at Harvard. What was I was going to say something. You had asked me. So like, oh, your why.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to know my why?
Yeah.
Because it's selfish if I don't take care of myself. So people think it's selfish to take time for themselves all the time. This is the battle I have with parents all the time. Oh, but I got to do this for my business. I'm like, cool. What about you? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Where at what point in the week can we put you on the calendar? You deserve that. Right? If I don't take care of myself, guess who's taking care of me when they're in their prime? Casey and Bailey. They'll do it because they love me.
Not fair though.
Not fair.
Nope.
Because I chose not to take care of myself. And that I just don't think I could live with. Right? So one thing that we really need to ask ourselves, we're willing to live for, or die for our kids. So I walk outside and there's a bus coming. I'm jumping in front of that bus if it's coming near my kids. I will get them out of the way and I will take the hit.
Mm-hmm. But
am I willing to live for them? Am I willing to live more now?
Well, and here's the thing.
This
is such a cliche statement because when I'm taking on new clients, probably you too, a lot of brand new clients or prospects, they'll be like, oh, I want to be healthy to be able to watch my kids get married or to be grandchildren or to be grandparents. Great.
Yeah.
But are you willing to actually sacrifice and put in the work to do that? Because it's going to take you a while. Right. And it's going to take a shift in your lifestyle for the rest of your life.
Right. Right. But remember, it's not a sprint. I mean, it's a marathon, right? So a lot of people are just looking for that next hit, that next like, because we're so instant. Everything is so instant. So it's like, why don't we just take it one step at a time? Let's stop rushing this process, because it took this much time to get to where you are right now.
You're very good at getting to the why.
Yeah.
Like you're right. Mm-hmm. So do you think then when someone says, oh, I want to watch my kids walk down the aisle or pardon me, so I can be a grandparent, that's not a big enough why, is it?
Like, no, we have to get a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So what do you see some more common whys? Or what are the deeper whys to that? Because
I get the surface level, like, oh, I just want to fit back into my clothes. I'm like, cool. Aesthetic goals are great, right? They drive us. We can start to see some things.
So that's surface level.
Yeah. I don't want to work with anyone that can't give me more than that, to be honest with you. Because otherwise, like, they're not invested, right? We get to a point too that money just gets in the way. And I'm like, but you don't know how to get there. Like, honestly, I had an issue with my plumbing and I had to call Roto-Rooter and it was a Saturday, so they charge more, but I had to. They're the professional. They fix that stuff. Mm-hmm. It's not, like the same thing goes here, right? We need people to come in. Like, you need to fix your business, get a business coach. You need to get healthy, come to one of us. Like,
yeah.
So,
okay, you're the biggest why then to hire the Roto-Rooter.
Right.
There's a whole bunch. You don't want your carpets full of shit.
Yeah.
You don't want.
Yeah.
Right?
It was my sink. You know what is all the fat from all of the meats that we eat and stuff? I was just like lining our sink. He had to like get in there and I was like, sorry, bud. But I'm like, 30 minutes of work cost me $400 on a Saturday.
Yeah.
I got to spend it.
Yeah.
That's adulting. Mm-hmm. That's the part of adulting that sucks.
So tap into that a little bit more. So for the viewership and the listenership,
okay,
how can they discover their why, their true why? Because we both have just agreed that, I want to look better in my clothes. Great, surface level.
Yeah.
And also because I want to see my grandchildren. That's also kind of secondary, but still kind of surface level. Let's get deeper. So
I would continue to just ask, like, tell me more about that, right? So what are you going to be doing with your grandkids? Okay, so you want to play with them. Awesome. You're going to be able to get on and off the floor, or you just have to get a little bit deep. I just keep asking more questions because a lot of people don't just offer that type of information, or they don't even know it exists. Mm-hmm. Right. So sometimes I give examples, but like, usually, you know, it just depends. Every call, every conversation that I have with people is so different, right? They don't want to give up, but they've been giving up. They've tried all these different things that don't work because you're expecting things to happen so fast. Women undereat like crazy. I'm like, come on, man. Like your body's like, you're giving all these different signals to your body and it doesn't even know what to expect, right? So I would just continue to just press more it depends. It really does. Everyone's so unique.
So what about when someone's challenged, they don't know where to go? Feeling frustrated, what should be some of the steps to that they can take initially and independently, and also seeking for professional assistance?
Well, I would say stop trying to do it on your own, right? Magazines don't have all the answer. Those are just companies that just want to make money.
Yep.
Like the pharmaceutical and the health industry are just really in it for a profit. And like, I mean, I'm really excited for the time that our worlds come together and we really help each other instead of all of this polarizing stuff, you know, with those industries, right? And we see it all the time.
Yep.
But in reality, like, the nutrition, I was thinking about back to when we talked about like kids in the cupboard. Food scientists are quite incredible. They make food very palatable. And a lot of people don't understand that, like, most companies spend, 70% of their marketing budget to make food palatable.
Yeah.
Okay. That means that hit that you are going to get from that food is meant for you to want more of it.
It's not real.
Yeah.
It's not real.
Yeah. So we dig as deep as we can to figure out like why.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just started implementing like, what are going to be our big rocks? What are the things that we have to do on a daily basis? We've got to nail them down first. We can't skip steps. And I'm all about supplementing the body, but a supplement is to supplement something that's already that we're already doing.
Sure.
Right?
And I think
it's not a fix.
Right. And so many people are doing the opposite.
Right.
They're buying these product A, product B, product C, product D online, thinking that it's just
because Dr. Oz said that raspberry ketones are awesome.
Yep.
And you're like, the sales go up and you're like, holy shit, like, come on, man.
I see it all the time for like the seed products and like this. And I see, you'll never believe, blah, blah, blah. I used to have heartburn, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And this one product is like, no, that's not this one product.
You're skipping a step.
Yeah.
Stop skipping steps.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
You need to nail down your big rocks. You need to do it in your business, right? You're like, oh, this didn't work. Well, hang on a second. You're not actually doing it.
Yeah.
Right? How about we just eat some protein and move your body and like drink some water, and then it's going to like impact. Okay, next. Great. You're doing a good job there.
Yep.
Let's add the next step. Or we highlight it, right? I've got these really cool tracking sheets that I do with my clients. So one is really, really detailed, and then one is a little bit more just habits. So it depends on where they are or time again.
Yep.
Right? I'm like, if you can't make 15 minutes, take 15 minutes out of your week to do this. Let me see how much Netflix you're watching. And let me see your data. Like, how much of this are we doing?
Right.
You are choosing not to do this because it's hard.
Right.
Well, guess what? Things are hard in life. Get over it. Like, I don't want to be rude, but at the same time, we've got to stop coddling people and just be like, listen, things are hard. You're right. But they're only as hard as you want them to be. You're making it harder on yourself because you're choosing to not take the next step.
Yeah. Well, two things. Talking about things are hard.
Okay. Like, don't even tell me that we're going into this stupid cold thing.
You agreed.
I know. Okay. I agreed, but I have to tell you something. So you remember, you're like, start doing your cold showers.
Yeah.
I haven't. Do you want to know why? Because I just wanted to just do this and get it over and done with. But also, like, I just wanted to know. So when I lift in the morning, I do it because I have to do something harder.
Okay.
Than what's going to come at me for the rest of the day. If I start my morning by doing something challenging, right? So this is extremely challenging for me. Like, this is going to be the hardest thing. I don't like being cold. I've escaped the winter. I'm a snowbird at heart.
Got it.
So you really have to walk.
Yeah, you were a snowbird last year.
The only other time that I went to, for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
The only other time, so when Mike and I were getting married, a bridal shower. Not bridal shower, my bachelorette party. We did it in Blue Mountain.
Okay.
And so there's like that hot and cold. We went there for the day.
Yeah.
But I didn't really go in because we were trying to get pregnant.
Okay.
So I was like, I don't want to go in long, but I didn't tell anybody, and they had planned it for me.
Should have gone in the cold.
Well, I only went in with my feet, and I was like, this sucks. I'm getting out. I know.
Because cold water is good for fertility.
Okay, well, at that point.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, I was waiting.
Okay, well, we're going to do that.
Okay.
100%.
All right.
Don't be a little baby back.
I won't. Maybe a little bit.
We're in my wheelhouse now.
Okay.
If you could help one person right now, they're listening and they need help. What's the one thing that you love to help people with the most?
Believing in themselves. Knowing that they're worthy. Knowing that they're loved. Knowing that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty common theme among a few guests.
Yeah.
They really close with that, and having belief in self.
Yeah, like even just like we have been just totally torn down. You know, our biggest thing that we want to do, which is our biggest future goal, is to like get into like churches and just do like family health seminars. Like that is our big goal. I want to travel to different churches all around the world, plant myself here. This is how it's going to work. This is what it looks like. This is how you do it. Now go do it together as a family.
Give them a DIY/blueprint.
Yep.
This is how it's done.
Baker Family Fitness time.
Beautiful. All right. Well, that's amazing. We'll put your Instagram here and all your socials, and all the viewership can follow you. And then we're going to conclude this podcast with a cold plunge.
You'll get to do the cold plunge.
And talk about reinforcing your faith. You're asking everyone to pray for you.
Definitely.
How do you want to close off this podcast?
Just don't be afraid to ask for help. Asking for help is a sign of strength. It's not a sign of weakness.
Ask for help anytime.
Yeah.
And you know what? People don't really realize, and this is also applicable in lots of different areas, especially in my background with addiction. A lot of people who have substance abuse and addicted, they feel quite lonely. But meanwhile, there is such a huge support system all around us.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just ask for help.
Open arms. There's people that have open arms. Just stay away from the judgmental people and find your people. Pray about it. Ask God for guidance. He'll give you the right person.
There you go. That's nice. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Let's go get cold.
Okay.
All right. Gut Gang, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. Gut Whisperer out. Okay, that wraps up this episode of the Gut Gang podcast. Thanks so much for being part of the Gut Gang community. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and even leave a comment. Your feedback fuels our growth. And also, here's something special. If you want more exclusive content, be sure to become part of the private Gut Gang members-only community, where you get to see behind-the-scenes bonus segments in my cold plunge and the sauna with each of the podcast guests. That's right. Part of the podcast series is having the guests hang out with me for the whole day at my place, biohacking, taking cold plunges, going in the sauna, even a coffee tasting where we hook up all the mics and the cameras and we shoot the entire experience. You definitely don't want to miss out on this action. So I'll see you over there. Gut Whisperer out.